day long, and it's noon somewhere. Now, I'm in South Florida. Dave's in Montreal, Quebec. So we're both East Coast, almost the same time zone. I can argue that. Sun sets a little earlier up north than it does down south. However, we're the same time zone. And that being fair, right? It sounds a little hypocritical that we're in the same time zone if he's 30 minutes ahead of me and I'm 30 minutes behind him. Kind of strange. Kind of like politics, the hypocrisy that is a constant thread for the last, I'd say, 24 years. Not that it didn't exist before that, but it's been amplified to a level that is tearing the fabric of the Western world. You know, we talked about CRA, right? Way back when, on how over 40 years, maybe more, they were trying to penetrate the school system to put into our programs what we are now calling the woke agenda. Took 30, 40 years. It's called the long game. Where is the hypocrisy in that? You have politics, rules for one person, rules for another, but the rules apply differently. David, we've been talking about this. This coming month, February, will be our third anniversary. I believe it's February 8th, making that up. I'm only now ranting for a minute and a half, so no one can be angry. David, what is your feeling about hypocrisy?
Well, let's start from the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we have been dealing with politicians, and we're more aware now of politics and voting and blah blah blah. And what's amazing is it is Groundhog Day every single day. It's amazing. Why do I say Groundhog Day? It's simple. We ask for change, nothing changes. Voters are looking for more alignment in government between legislators, excuse me. Of course not. We got to fight on political lines. The debt ceiling is reached a point that, you know, this week the Treasury went, we're going to be bankrupt. And yet, again, on political lines, who's acting how and whatever. And if you rewound the tape and you go back to the last time the Democrats were in power and the other, it's the same thing over and over again. Just the names and faces change. The political hypocrisy. We're looking for, you know, the odd time there is alignment between Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, if you will. I know in cybersecurity, there's this attempt to try to work together to try to get things done. But when you look at the other things, the more public, it's a big joke. But we also see it in other places where our president of the United States, current president of the United States, has lied about his documents. Got his hand caught in the cookie jar. And the Department of Justice, instead of handling it like they did with the Trump scenario where they raided and they made a big deal about it, the DOJ gave Biden's lawyers access to take care of everything. That's hypocrisy. What is that? And at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, while we were all sleeping in Davos, Switzerland, our two favorite environmental psychotics, Al Gore, former VP, and John Kerry, former racist Secretary of State and Iranian lover, is telling the world how we should conduct our lives to save planet Earth. Meanwhile, they can't fly coach. They can't fly on a regular airplane because in their world, it's not possible. So they fly private jets so that you and I pay the price. They love to tell Americans and Canadians and Westerners how we should conduct ourselves. But do they stand up to China, India, Russia, the most egregious violators of the environment? No. Once again, the political Groundhog Day emerges, and it's unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen, how our friends in the media have to cover this up. They don't let you and me know the truth. They lied about COVID numbers, the government. They wanted to control, but they don't want to control you. Now, when they say that maybe COVID numbers were exaggerated, the spin from the politicians is, let's not give the conspiracy theorists too much fodder. It's fascinating How plus que ça change, plus que ça reste la même, Stuart. More things change, the more they stay the same.
And David, just to go back to this gas emissions, China produces 10 million tons of CO2. United States creates half of that. India does half of the United States. So combined, the only person that's the 800-pound gorilla of the environment CO2 gas emissions being released is China. And, I'd also love to calculate how many private planes arrived in Davos, Switzerland. How many,
Ah,
how many of these hypocrites got to Davos on private jet? At some point, the word hypocrisy has to come out. Again, if the United States cuts its emissions by 10%, that's fabulous. But the one country that produces over 2 times, we don't really put any pressure on. David, it is hypocrisy. I see it in this Davos conference. I see it in the other conference they just had in Montreal. It's a constant thread of an oligarch in the world outside of Russia. Believe it or not, it's an oligarch, plain and simple. When AOC starts slanderous anti-Semitical terms, she's forgiven. When Joe Biden gets called out for being at the funeral of the biggest Klansman, he's forgiven. There's an excuse that's accepted for Omar's anti-Israel stance. There's excuses that we have to accept. And if you don't accept, the rebuttal is you're a racist, you're a climate denier, you are something. It becomes a name-calling event. Now, let's talk about these documents. Let's start off with evidence. That garage were top secret documents that left the Obama administration are in the same time with Hunter Biden driving with 2 unknown females. Hunter Biden doesn't have clearance, and I can almost assuredly guarantee that those 2 girls don't have clearance. Moreover, at that time, VP Biden had no authority to declassify those documents, and the historical document group in the United States let their lawyer go and get the documents. No records, no nothing, just go for it. The rules for me are not for thee, which again is back to this hypocrisy over and over.
Stuart, let's go a step further, okay? And I talked about our environmental gurus here, Al Gore and John Kerry. To show you the arrogance and the mindset between these guys, John Kerry stood up and said that he and a select group have an almost extraterrestrial plan to save the planet. And I don't understand what does that mean. But again, it's like we know better. All of you people out there, you know nothing.
Listen, I was chatting with a very well-educated CPA who now lives in North Carolina, and another gentleman who lives in Montreal, Quebec. And we also know him together, David. Both of these people, very brilliant, very smart people. One's a very good accountant who's retired. The other one, I don't know his education, but he's a nice guy, smart guy. He's a twin. I don't know which one's smarter. But the bottom line is they both drank this Kool-Aid that you mentioned the word Trump, he's more evil than the other guy. So when we talk about World War II, and I love talking about Adolf Hitler, do we forget Mussolini?
Well, Stuart,
was Mussolini?
But this is
to give a parallel.
Listen, Stuart, but the point is that and again, this is what the politicians like to do. Your guy was bad, so therefore my guy can do whatever he wants or she wants.
He's not as bad as your guy,
and that's it. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. So because Obama was bad, Trump can get away with whatever he does, and vice versa. I'm
No,
sorry, guys. The
no.
law, the policies that are out there today, the politics that are out there today, is about deflection. It's about don't blame me, blame the other person. Don't talk to me this way. And you know what? I don't really care if you voted for Donald Trump or not. There were almost 100 million people who voted for Donald Trump, and there were about 100 odd million people who voted for Joe Biden the last election, give or take, whatever. And I know that Biden won and whatever. Folks, enough with this. This political hypocrisy there is a law. There are laws that have been enacted to protect the people. But you and I, Stuart, are subjected to it in a most heinous way compared to a politician. If you stole, borrowed, took one single classified document off of government property, you'd be in jail.
To jail you go.
But if the President of the United States, the former U.S. Vice President of the United States, does it, and one might leave it in Mar-a-Lago, and one might leave it in his Delaware home, and one might leave it in a garage getting carbon monoxide from a Corvette. I don't really care what. How is either of them okay? How is it legit? And again, let the lawyers spin it. Let the media spin it. Because if you're a liberal media, you're going to say that Joe Biden is cooperating, everything's wonderful, and yeah, I was wrong, but if you're anti-Trump, you're going to rip him apart. And CNN did this. CNN, as soon as Biden got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, they went back to talking about how Trump was bad. Like, folks, I don't really care. If you're a criminal, you should be prosecuted, but not these guys. The politicians are completely immune. An AOC and other politicians, not just on the Democrat side, even on the Republican side, these games that are being played.
Here's a great one, David. You know that the recession has been caused by the just put into current Republican Congress.
Correct. Yes.
Yep.
And this is
already trying to blame.
But you understand that 5 minutes ago, there was no recession. Karine Jean-Pierre stood up and said, there is no recession. Sorry, folks. I don't care what economists have said about 2 consecutive negative growth and blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It's about spin. And all the spin that's been going on, the politicians continue to spin. Their allies are spinning for them. And at the end of the day, you want to know why young people don't want to vote? You want to know why young people are so disenfranchised? You want to understand why youth today is sick and tired of politics? Because nothing's changing. It's the same crap wrapped in a different thing. One of my favorite expressions is, no matter how much lipstick you put on a pig, it's still a pig. And this is the pig. These politicians are all, without an exception, pigs who only want one thing: power. And with power, you know what else comes with it?
David, I have the power to say, let's get ready to tell them next week we're back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's tell them next week. Let's find some more meat on the bones of something interesting. Guys, thank you for PMing us. Thank you for messaging us. We love each and every single comment. We may not agree on a lot of things, but you want to know something? That's what creates a democracy. Having 2 voices with opposing opinions and understanding that we don't all have to be the same. And if you're not the same, that doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you have a different set of opinions. So the 2 people out there that I was just messaging with last couple of days, I think you're good people. I'll break bread with you. We just don't agree on some things. That doesn't mean you're bad and I'm good, or you're good and I'm bad. David, it's time to say goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay warm, enjoy the weekend. We'll catch you on the other side.